All right, Melanee, thank you so much for being here today. I am thrilled that you are going to be giving us some insight into your own experience and some advice for our students and our alums. But I'd love to start off with having you introduce yourself, tell me what program you graduated from at Trachtenberg, and what you're doing now.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to have this conversation with you today. So, I am currently the Director of Federal Affairs for the City of New York. That role is based in Washington, D.C., so it is a pleasure to be able to work for and represent my hometown. In my second hometown, which is where I got my graduate degree, I got an MPP from George Washington, and I have been able to put it readily to use throughout my career.
Wonderful. We love to hear that. Okay, going to jump right into our questions and start off with what's the best networking advice you've received?
The best networking advice I received was make friends before you need them. Make sure you are investing in and valuing all of the relationships that you are able to make along your career journey, and make sure that you are appropriately staying connected with folks, as you never know where you or they will end up in the future. Um, it's some of the best advice I've gotten, and it was something that honestly, I wish someone had told me a little bit sooner. You meet and make these wonderful connections as an undergraduate and as a graduate student, and everyone, spins off into different directions. But that doesn't mean that that's not somebody that you're going to cross paths with later in life. So I'm just being mindful that no one's path is predestined, and to shoot for kindness.
I love that. That's great. And we definitely, hear from people who say, you know, I'm a little nervous about reaching out to people and talking with people, but thinking of them as making friends. That's a different way of thinking about it, and that's nice and has benefits beyond just networking.
I mean, and I would say, even if you're nervous about reaching out to someone, do it anyway. If you reach out to someone and you don't hear back, that's okay. I give grace to those who seek it, and I also know how busy I have been in different points of my career, and maybe not able to be as responsive. That does not mean someone is being dismissive of you. So I do my best not to presume the intent of someone or something, and just, hey, I may give it another shot and reach out later at a different time.
That's great. Okay. What specific action have you taken you think that significantly impacted any of your job searches?
I, I don't know if I would. For me, it has been significant in that I have not had to search often for a job. I have often been offered opportunities, because I make sure that I am continually having a conversation about my career trajectory with mentors and peers. That does not mean that I am flashing a sign that says for hire or open for business, but always having a conversation about growth and what next steps and next year looks like, keeps you top of mind for folks when they are looking for leaders, when they are looking for folks who are interested in different opportunities, making sure that you're comfortable being conversant in what you do, and asking questions about what other folks do, to make sure that, not to make sure, to better understand and learn from them. Also tips their hat to know that this is someone who is not just interesting, they may be interested. And so that is something that's always kept opportunities at the forefront for me.
Just a quick follow-up, even though it's not on our list of questions. How do you find mentors? Where have you found mentors in your career?
So because I didn't early on follow the advice of make friends before you need them, I what I used to do is keep people. I'd say, okay, I really like you, this person who is my boss. I'm going to keep you. And I know that sounds very silly, but it was me being honest about how much impact they had had on me during the opportunity. And I let them know that if there is a way for us to remain in each other's lives, I'd love to do that. I didn't even necessarily ask him to be my mentor at first. When I interned on the Hill 90 million years ago, I asked my first chief of staff if I could keep him. And I understood that he didn't have the bandwidth at the time to be my mentor, but the opportunity to be able to remain connected to him was so invaluable, and it proved to pay off. And in time, when he did have more time, he was able to take the time to mentor me. Same thing with another senior person in the staff who actually is my mentor to this day. Um, because I said I'd love to just stay in touch and stay connected. And I just kept checking in to see when they would have the time and the bandwidth to be and to act in the role of a mentor. Sometimes when folks say no, they're not interested in mentoring you, it's not because of you. You have to also kind of understand where they are in their lives and what's going on in the background, and do they have the ability to do that. And always remind folks that mentorship relationships are reciprocal. Just as much as they poured into me, I was able to share what was going on with my generation, my age group, what were new trends. And that was also what really helped me with my mentor mentee relationships.
That last point is so important because we have so many students say, I don't have anything to offer, and I feel bad asking for things. And yes, you do have something to offer. You're at the cutting edge when you're a student or a recent graduate. You're hearing things that people who are, working at the same kind of thing aren't hearing and maybe aren't connected to. So I love that it's a reciprocal kind of a
It
relationship.
very much is. My Gen Z staff taught me so much because I'm very much a Gen Xer. And I have very directed speech, love to make sure that we have a plan in place or moving forward. And it was not, not a language that was initially well received, but I always laid the stage for, okay, then what's the feedback? How are we going to interact with each other in a way that's productive? Talk to me about how Gen Z connects with each other. What is the best way to communicate? And I will say, I love how forward thinking and open and honest that group of my staff was, and we were able to make it just a more productive workspace having those interactions.
Great. I love that. What have you found most helpful in preparing for an interview and or when you're interviewing people, what do you think folks should be doing before they come in the door?
Come to interviews prepared. Know what the role is that you're interviewing for, and know what space the company and or the candidate that you're interviewing for is in. Read the articles. Don't just do a Google search. Make sure you are finding and digging deep into some news articles. You're looking for any clips about the company that are relevant to today, so that they know that you're not just married to what you knew about maybe a decades old company, but you know where they are today. And make sure you know what role you're interviewing for. A lot of times folks see an opportunity at a company or a place, and they're excited to work for that entity, but they're not necessarily prepared for that specific role. And that really matters, because you want to make sure that if that's really the company that you're interested in, you're not boxing yourself out of other opportunities if that particular role is not the right fit. You want to come to the opportunity prepared.
Makes total sense. And usually you have enough time to do that preparation. Even if it's a quick turnaround, it's usually not a same day turnaround. So you've got time to do that.
Absolutely. It's not a days long adventure to do research. It is just making sure you dedicate time to sit for a few hours and make sure you are prepared.
Yeah, that's great. Thinking back, how did you showcase your capstone to potential employers and or how would you suggest somebody do that?
My capstone was on base realignment and closure. I remember it to this day. Um, and it was very relevant to the work that I was doing, because I worked for the federal government at the time. And I made sure I found a way to connected to the work that I wanted to do. Because my first job after graduating was a chief of staff role for a member of Atlanta City Council. So I talked about the ways that we had to communicate across sectors about a project that was that was very government specific. Um, I talked about how we were able to provide statistical analysis that informed processes moving forward. And that in and of itself was something that was valuable to various employers. Being able to provide and interpret data in a way that helps them make change, helps them improve implementation, helps them better respond to constituents and or communities, under being able to communicate that you cannot just collect data but you can interpret it for and help folks harness that information is something that's really invaluable. So you what I did with my capstone was focus on the tools that I was given at GW and how we use that tools and how those tools are going to stay with me moving forward. So that data analysis tool and that cross sector communication.
And so really focusing on what you did and not so much the subject area of it, although you did have the government connection, but really on the skills that you use that apply in a bunch of different ways.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Excellent. Okay, finally, I feel like I might know the answer to this one, but what are some of the actions you think that you've taken that have been most impactful on your career advancement, which sounds like not so much formal job applications, but what do you think has moved you forward so much?
I am a perpetual learner, so I have made a concerted effort to join in some form of continuing education program as I've moved along in my career. Now that does not mean I've necessarily gone back to school to get another degree, although I did get another master's. It's a whole other
Oh,
conversation.
wow.
But I joined a program. So in Georgia, they have a program called Leadership Atlanta. In New York, they have a program called Choral Leadership New York. Each city and state has what are called leadership programs that marry networking with learning more about the city or state that you're working in. Those programs to me are just so foundational to the network you're building in your specific sector. And they don't just have them, let's say, it is not limited to government. If you're in the education space, they have programs like that where, again, you're networking with folks in your specific content area or your issue area, and you're learning more about how you can improve your skills in that space as a leader. I look for programs like that in different stages in my career, and they have been really, really instrumental in helping me continue to move forward. And with meeting those folks who continually push opportunities your way because you've been in their space, you've worked with them, they have a concept of your work ethic, they have an understanding of how you think at a base level. So if there are opportunities that sound like they would fit you as the person that they interacted with in that cohort, that is something that they might send your way.
So I was going to guess that you were going to be talking about networking because you've been talking so beautifully about it. And you brought in another aspect as well, which is the combination of the networking and the learning. And that is really a powerful combination and something that I think students can do outside of the classroom too, with associations and with conferences and getting out there into the community that they want to be a part of.
It's my favorite. I am not a natural work the room networker.
Okay.
I there are situational opportunities that abound. You just have to look for them. So I do. So a good friend of mine was very much a Toastmaster person, but that Toastmaster experience was is also a networking opportunity, and it builds a different bond with the folks in that space that allows you to maybe have a little bit more trust and allows you to be a little bit more relaxed because you're consistently with those folks across your learning journey and your Toastmasters experience. But that's just an example. But once I realized that in every instance, I'm not always excited to meet everybody in the room. I started that way, which made it eventually a lot easier to understand what I'm looking for when I come across a room full of people, and I know who I want to talk to and why, and it makes it a lot easier.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of people do not, including myself, relish the idea of working a room, but there's other ways to do it besides work in a room. Melanee, this is fabulous. Thank you so much for all of that great information that's going to be really helpful to our students and to our recent grads. Really appreciate your time.
Oh no, thank you so much for this. This is great.